First of all, Dave, without Dave, there would not be Feast of Tabernacles in this room. Okay? When we came here, Dave and I, this looked like a disaster area. Okay? Then, a couple of days later, Dave and I realized that we could have the Feast of Tabernacles back. And Dave comes here every day and works. We've been working. He does the, and he's not even converted. He doesn't even believe like we believe. But I think that he needs to ask for an applause for Dave. And I'm going to be a little bit facetious. That means funny, if you don't mind. I have been told horrible things about these two people. Okay? That's right. I have been told that they want to take over this church and to watch out for them. I watched them. I watched them how they worked. He and I went to cut some decoration. I've been watching him. All he wants to do is work, and he loves the church, and he loves God. These two people, you give me these two people, and everybody go, I will still have a church. That's all. I think they deserve an applause. I cannot understand people in the church, the things they say. Actually, lots of people are saying things that they cannot verify. In religion and in also politics. Everything has to be verified. Here we have two people that are so important for the church. And now I want to pray, okay? And I want to pray from here. And you bow your heads. My prayer is going to be very different. Okay? Eternal Father in heaven, thank you, Father, for the fact that we are here, keeping your Feast of Tabernacles in spite of the weather, in spite of everything, you have allowed us to come here. Thank you, Father, for all of these people that are here, whom you called out of this world, and you opened their minds, and they know your truth, and they love your plan of salvation. And Father, thank you for them. They are so precious. We cannot even begin to understand how precious they are for you. Thank you for them. I don't have any other word in English, but thank you. Gracias. It's another word. I can say it in several languages, but we have to be so thankful. This was a ruin. And you, Father, sent Dave and sent people to help us, and here we are. Let us celebrate, allow us to celebrate, Father, your feast like we never celebrated one, with joy and thankfulness. And Father, we know that this pictures your kingdom that is coming. Please help the people that are preaching here, myself, Art, and this gentleman that I'm beginning to love more and more. Please inspire us to say your word, to move them in their hearts, to continue in their lives toward your kingdom. And we ask you in the name of your Son, Jesus the Messiah. Amen.
Amen. Before I ask you to rise for services, I too want to just welcome all of you to Feast of Tabernacles 2016. And I want to say this too. You know, I feel there's no question in my mind that Matthew was definitely Satan's instrument to try and keep us from keeping this feast. I really feel he realizes his time is short. And because he realizes his time is short, he's striking not just at us. I mean, this storm, when you look at it, look at how many of God's feast sites were really impacted by this storm, all the way up the coast. Almost every one of God's churches was impacted by a feast site
There it is.
due to this particular storm. And I just hope and pray that all of them have worked as hard as this group has worked, so that they're being able to keep their feast in spite of all that Satan did to try to keep us from doing that. And I think too, that it's very important for us to realize, we need to make the very best of this feast. I think we need to show our love as we have never shown it before for one another, because I truly feel, I really do, that this could be the last time we're able to get together. You know, our government, the media, is trying to make us think that everything is perfect. Everything is going to work out. And while they're focusing on nothing but this presidential election, we're seeing things over in Israel happen. You know, it says in the last days, the armies will gather around Israel. And what a lot of people don't know, because they're just focusing on the election, is those armies are already gathering by the thousands around Israel. The tension between Russia, Syria, and the United States is at an all-time peak. Many feel war could be imminent. So these are what the world is really like right now. And if that happens, USA as we know it will be totally gone. And that's why I think we really need, and that's why I think Satan's coming after us so hard at this time. Because he knows the only way we're going to be able to survive, going to lie ahead for us, is we're going to have to keep this goal that this feast represents of having God's kingdom, being rulers in his kingdom someday. We're going to have to keep that goal in front of us at all times in order to endure what lies ahead. And that's why we need to keep this feast. We need to really strive to make sure that that goal is just implanted in our mind. And we show each other love. In fact, now as you rise to start singing our song service, I'd like every one of you to turn around and hug the person next to you. Let's start the feast. You know, really showing love for one another.
Nobody wants to.
I hug you.
How about you?
We're all family here. Yes, we are.
I'm not hugging that robot.
Hey, Jimmy, you hug
Big hug.
Hey,
He just comes to share.
Eddie, give me your crazy bitch. Hey, who is this woman?
You're going to have to wait.
Who is this woman?
Yeah. What's your name again? Debbie. What's your name again, Larry?
He's a good guy.
Yeah, I already heard you. Oh, no.
Mr. Huggins.
Did you get a hug?
Mr. Huggins, let's begin the service.
All right. I know the
I'm hugging the mother.
Have a good one, Dave.
Thank you.
Yeah, maybe I said get back.
I don't think
Have
so.
faith in God.
Hey, how are you?
We'll bring souls.
Yeah.
No, it's God.
Trying to do my best.
Doctors are going to do so good, but you gotta have
Okay,
faith.
Okay. I
They're
think,
lying for me.
I think we've done all the hugging we can do at this particular moment.
Hey, I just went
Absolutely.
That's great, that's wonderful. And
Dave, thank you for
My wife
everything
and I-
you've done. It takes my breath away.
Must
You
button.
I
you
let
made
you know
this
that the piano
possible
she
for
was
us.
playing had 18 inches
Still
of
gotta wait, so I gotta fix
water.
that ladies from doors.
Yeah.
It is not
Well,
exactly
it's the
in tune,
underlayment.
but we've been practicing
Underneath
on
that,
it.
no,
and I
it's
think
gonna
she's
help
gonna
swell
do it
up.
on
Yeah,
top.
it won't back
You
it.
just sing real loud, okay? You just have to sing real loud. We won't notice that the piano is that much out of tune. So our first song is number 9, right? Number 9, Come Thou Almighty King.
Wow. Can we sing off key too?
Oh, it was-
Everybody to rhyme, I'm sorry.
That piano was 12 inches deep in water.
And we'll sing Come Thou Almighty King on page 9. is approved, and let us worship him.
Somebody got the basket?
They're back there, right? Back there.
Oh, yeah, okay. These are difficult times financially for a lot of people. The country is not going broke, it is broke. Okay? And you can't blame one particular government or person. It is being going on for several centuries, folks. And when you don't do what God says, no country is going to be like we want it to be. You're going to see, as he said in the future, horrible events, because I think that God is sick and tired of this world. And that's exactly what we're doing in this feast. You know, we are here because we know that God is going to start a new world, and we want to be part of it. For the time being, money is very important. In the kingdom, it will be different. I don't know exactly how it will be. I know there will be money. Now, we have managed to do lots of things in the years that we have been here with little money. Your offering, of course, is ordered by God, not me. Give whatever you can, because you're not giving it to me, you're actually giving it to this church. And God says, thank you for helping Manny, and thank you for helping Manny to continue this church. And thank you for all of you for being here. And let us all work together. Whatever you can do, if it is 5 cents with all your heart, God looks at it, and if God says, I like that heart. So, again, We're going to take the collection now, and I am, this light is, who paid for this light? You did?
You should have went off the other
Instead of
side.
giving me the money, you bought an expensive light. Let me get something to. You got some problem with me?
We don't have an
You know what?
envelope.
I'm gonna go get it.
Oh.
You know what? Women should not talk in church.
My life is longer.
All right. Okay, does anybody need an envelope?
Yes.
You do?
Yeah.
It figures with you. Why don't you get prepared?
I got the money.
But who else needs one envelope?
We do.
Huh? Who's we? You do? I'm not talking to you, I'm talking to him.
Thank you.
What else? Does anybody need an envelope? Do we have an envelope here? No, we have an envelope. Hey. Who else? You do? Okay? Yeah. Whatever it is.
Oh, okay, that's.
Whatever it is, put it in the envelope here. You give it to God, not to man.
Okay.
All right? Now we'll take it out. This is right. I want to tell something you don't know in relation to this, with this. I love brandy, and I ran out of it. Okay. Gracias, amigo. Muchas gracias. You know what I mean? What? Yeah. Thank you. You okay? Something okay? Right? Everything is okay?
Hey.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, okay. Before you come, let me tell the people. Okay, we have 3 speakers here at the Feast of Tabernacles, okay? Cord is going to speak 3 times. Art is going to speak twice. And I'm going to speak twice, okay? Why do you say you don't want me to speak at all?
Not really.
I'm not paranoid, I'm just invent. Anyhow, it's gonna be real nice, and let's hear what God has to say. And you ready?
David, could you dim Dave,
Dave,
could you dim those lights just a hair?
What's wrong?
those lights.
These lights here, right?
Are they dim?
Yeah, we need them when we can't see your face when you're standing there.
That's all right, they don't need to see my face.
You can see the screen
The main
fine.
thing, especially in this one, is gonna be the pictures.
Yeah, you can see it fine.
Okay, again, welcome to Feast of Tabernacles 2016. And this might seem like sort of an unusual title to start Feast of Tabernacles with, but I think you're gonna see it has a real meaning for us, especially here at the feast. So, the title is, a bee or not a bee? That is the question. You know, recently Pat and I acquired a beehive, and as you can see here, it is complete with a large bottom board box where the queen bee lays her eggs, and the larvae grow and pupate, and new bees are reared, as well as a smaller top where the honey supers, where the excess honey that the bees make is then stored, and that's what we get to take. And it has been, quite an exciting experience. And yes, it's even at sometimes a little painful when you might get a sting, but I'm asking, have you ever watched a thriving beehive? Are you familiar with their life cycle? It is absolutely mind-boggling. And really, I think, draws us closer to understanding how great God really is. It is really quite a marvel of God's creation. The whole colony functions as one unit with every member having a crucial part. You know, as I mentioned, there is a larger queen bee, as you see here, whose sole purpose is to lay the eggs that become the future generation of the bees. She is a little larger than the rest of the bees, as you can see, and fiercely protected by the lovingly cared for by all of these, her daughters. Now, she will lay thousands and thousands of eggs over her lifetime and is the central figure of the hive. She definitely is a real queen. The second members of the hive are the drones, or male bees that are fat and lazy and do nothing but mate with the newly hatched virgin queen bee. No, it's a one-in-a-lifetime event for these fellows. At the end of the fall season, the worker bees kick the drones out of the hive to die. After all, the drones have fulfilled their duty, and since they're now non-productive, the industrious little workers don't want any part or see any need to feed these useless mouths over the winter months. So another godly principle is applied, isn't it? If you don't work, you don't eat. And that's in Proverbs 10, verse 5. He who gathers in summer is a wise son, but he who sleeps in harvest is a son who causes shame. And then we have Proverbs 20, verse 4. The lazy one will not plow by reason of the cold. Therefore he shall beg in harvest and have nothing. Now we come to the third group. The third group are the workhorses, really, of the hive, and are the smaller, sterile female worker bees who go through a cycle of work, responsibilities. They started out only caring for the queen by grooming her and feeding her. But they also act as nurse bees that feed and care for the larvae and newly hatched baby bees. And the royal jelly is a substance that is secreted from the glands of worker bees' head and used as a food for the brood or all the baby bees, as we see here. Now, after a couple of weeks of that duty, the maturing worker bees take on the responsibility of the maintenance staff that fan the hive with their wings, regulating the inner temperature. They also build the six-sided wax cell. And look at how perfect each one of those is. You know, when you stop and think about it, you would think that almost had to have a machine to make something that perfect. Yet they do this. And this is used for storing the honey and the pollen, as well as the nursery for the eggs and the larvae. And they also keep the hive clean of any foreign objects. Another very important role is the curing of the honey itself. You know, after a week or so of these duties, they advance then to guard duty. And these are the bees who position themselves, as you see here, at the entrance to the hive. And they fight off any unwanted guests, such as yellow jackets, flies, and other insects, as well as bees from other hives that come to rob them of their precious honey. But, you know, unfortunately, we as beekeepers are also considered unwanted guests coming to take their stored honey, and these guard bees will enlist the help of other worker bees to defend the hive. And they are actually willing to give their own lives to defend the queen, the brood, and the honey itself. So when we visit the hive, either to inspect or to harvest the honey, we must wear, as you see, protective gear such as hats, with veils, long sleeve shirts, and gloves. And these are all white, as the bees do not like bright colors and will react real negatively to anything other than the white color. We also use a small smoker, as you see here, to help calm the bees. These are the special tools we have to use to crack open the fruit boxes, because you'll see later that they've been able to glue these things together like you wouldn't believe. Bees are very efficient when it comes to sealing the crack, and they use this sticky liquid, which they also actually call propolis. And this, for the bees, they gather from trees and other plants. And it can actually really be compared to super glue. In fact, we have to use a little lever that looks like a miniature crowbar in order to break loose the hive boxes and the flaps that store the honey. So tending bees really is quite a process. And as you can probably understand, Pat and I are still in the learning process. But the honey reward is the reward, and the plant pollination, which of course we have a nice garden, it's worth every bit of the work. And then, even in spite of maybe getting an occasional sting. And now finally, the last duty of a worker bee is to become a field bee, or those that go out of the hive each day to forage the pollen and nectar. You know, that bringing this precious load back to the hive and then converting the pollen into food and turning the nectar into honey. You know, without these two food sources, a hive just could not survive. In the process of gathering the pollen and the nectar, the bees pollinate the plants with each visit. And this is another reason that bees are just so awful important to our life cycle. There are many plants that would just cease to exist if it were not for these industrious little pollinators. You know, pollen grains are collected, as you see here, from the male parts of a flower and pushed into little pouches on the bee's hind legs. And once these pouches are filled, the bee returns to the hive and scrapes the pollen out of the pouches and stores it in a cell. You can actually see these little pollen-laden bees arriving at the hive. We get a big kick out of just sitting and watching them come in. And we call it the pollen pen. You can just see the little hive. They just fill so much that the pollen kind of fall out of it. And some of the pollen is light in color, and some is darker, depending on the source of the flower that they gathered the pollen from. Now, a field bee will travel up to 2 miles from the hive, making numerous trips back and forth each day with the cargo of pollen and nectar. A field bee will literally actually work itself to death and must be replaced every few weeks. It is literally a labor of love. And that is why the queen has to lay so many eggs continually. Now, the making of honey is a very miraculous feat in itself. Worker bees have 2 stomachs. One for regular food, and second for storing the flower nectar they gather. Nectar is a very sweet liquid produced by a flowering plant. A bee has a rolled up tongue called a proboscis, which is used like a straw to suck up the nectar. Now, when a worker returns to the hive loaded with nectar, she is met by another worker bee who helps her pump the nectar out of her stomach and into the cell. Now, during this process, the bees add enzymes to the nectar, which actually aids in the honey making process. And these enzymes are also what makes honey so very healthy for us. You know, once the cell is filled completely with new honey, a big job comes. Because new honey is composed primarily of water. The bees reduce the moisture content down to 18.6%. And it has to be precise. That is a miracle in itself. You don't need to think they carry a little instrument with them and are you going to measure that? No. It knows exactly when it reaches the perfect level. And we know this is to be all given to them in talent by God. And then when this is done, when it reaches this level of 18.6%, the bees put a waxy cap over the cell, and the honey is stored very safe. And the right moisture level is very important, because if it is capped too early, it will ferment and spoil. If it is capped too late, the honey will crystallize and be too hard to use. So this honey storage is another godly principle, preparing ahead. Let's read Proverbs 6, verses 6 through 8. Go to the ant sluggard, consider her ways, and be wise. Who, having no guide, overseer, or ruler, provides her food in the summer and gathers the food in the harvest. Now let's go to Proverbs 30, verses 24 through 25. 4 things are little on the earth, but things are exceedingly wise. The ants are a creature not strong, yet they prepare their food in the summer. And you know, this can also be said of the bees, because they are very little ones on the earth, aren't they? So the question becomes, how do these little miracle workers know how to do all this? How do they know when the honey has the right amount of moisture and is safe to cap? Do they have the instrument to measure the moisture content of the honey? Of course not. Now, how do they know when this job is what even the job is expected of them? How do they know that? And obviously we know. The only reason is that God has programmed to have this ability. All of the knowledge and insight is given to them upon creation by God. Bees and honey are mentioned several times in the Bible. Let's read some. Let's go to Proverbs 24:13. My son, eat honey, because it is good, and the honeycomb is sweet to your palate. And then let's go to Proverbs 16:24. Pleasant words are like a honeycomb, sweet to the soul and health to the bones. So we might say that honey is the fruit that bees produce. It is very, very good for us in so many ways. In fact, it is proven that the honey is very healthy. It helps with germs or bacteria, because germs or bacteria can naturally not survive in the honey. And that's why honey is often used in healing wounds or even a sore throat. Get a sore throat? You just take a sip of honey, that's it. It has an antibiotic quality that makes it a valuable medicine for the health food. You see that here. Now, honey is used symbolically in the Bible to represent very good things. Remember how many times the term a lamb flowering with milk and honey is used in the Bible? Many times. The Israelites were to be taken to a promised land filled with good things. Now let's go to Exodus 3, verse 8, and now drop down to verse 17. And he says, and I am coming down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians, to bring them up out of the land, to a good land, a large land, to a land flowing with milk, and guess it, honey. Verse 17, and a land flowing with milk, and time again, milk and honey mentioned. Now we go down to Deuteronomy 6:3. Hear therefore, O Israel, and be diligent to observe it. And this is talking about the law, the commandments, so that it may be well with you, and that you may greatly multiply, as the Lord God of our fathers has promised you, in the land that flows with milk and honey. And now other scriptures, really, that mention milk and honey, they're at least the honey, is Deuteronomy 8:6, Deuteronomy 11:9, Deuteronomy 26:9, Deuteronomy 27:3, and Joshua 5:6. Now, in 2 Samuel, it lists honey as one of the nourishing foods that was brought to David and the hungry people who were in the wilderness with him. Let's go to 2 Samuel 17 and read verses 28 and 29. Verse 28, they brought beds and basins and earthen vessels and wheat and barley and flour and roasted grain and beans and lentils and other roasted food. Verse 29, and honey and butter and sheep and cheese from cows for David and for the people with him to eat. For they said, the people are hungry and weary and thirsty in the wilderness. So we see in the four Gospels, John the Baptist is described as one crying in the wilderness and living on locusts and wild honey. We see that in Matthew 3, verses 1 through 4. Verse 1. Now in those days, John the Baptist came preaching in the wilderness of Judea. In verse 2, and saying, repent, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. In verse 3, for this is he who was spoken of by Isaiah the prophet, saying, the voice of one crying in the wilderness, prepare the way of the Lord, make straight his paths. In verse 4, now John himself wore a garment of camel's hair and a leather belt around his waist, and his food was locusts and wild honey. Now, honey is mentioned so many times throughout the Bible as a food that is good for us. When God created the bee, he created something very good, very special for not just as a food, but also as a medicine for us. You know, there are also so many lessons that can be learned from watching these miracle workers. You know, one of the bees, one of the great things about the bees is they are willing to give their life for the sake of their queen and for their fellow workers, their friends. You know, when a bee stings someone or something in defense of the hive, you know that is suicide for that bee. The bee stinger, if you can see here, is barbed, and when it is injected into something, it catches. And then when the bee flies away or is removed, the entire stinger organism rips off the bee's body, killing the bee. So because of this, the bee will only sting in defense. And how's that? For an example to us, for being willing to lay down our lives for others. What did Christ have to say about this principle? Let's read this in John 15:13. No one has greater love than this, that one lay down his life for his friends. And I hope today, as we look around the room, that each and every one of us would be willing to do that for anyone who we see. It is repeated again in 1 John 3:16. By this very act, we have known the love of God because he laid down his life for us. And we ourselves are to lay down our lives for the brother. You know, the question is, the question we have to answer, would we be willing to give our life for another? Let's read this in Romans 5, verse 7 through 8. Verse 7. For rarely will anyone die for a righteous man, although perhaps someone might have the courage even to die for a good man. Verse 8. But God commands his own love to us, because when we were still sinners, Christ died for us. So Paul knew that it would be very difficult, almost impossible for most people to be willing to die for someone else. But remember, Christ was willing to die for all of us. He was our sacrifice. Let's go to Ephesians 5 and read verses 1 and 2. Verse 1. Therefore, be imitators of God as beloved children. Verse 2. And walk in love, even as Christ also loved us, and gave himself for us as an offering and a sacrifice to God for a sweet smelling Savior. You know, there are just so many ways that we as Christians can give up our life for Christ or for the brother. You know, I'm not actually talking about an actual physical death, but let's think about it. Let's just think about many of us who have had close relative relationships with family members or maybe some of our closest friends, because we're called to the body of Christ and have to forsake a lot of the worldly ways and the pagan ceremonies like Christmas, Easter, Halloween, you know, and what has this done? It ended that relationship many times with the rest of our family. I think some of them have even turned on just for that very reason. Just that totally can't understand it. So I'm sure many of you also have experienced the loss, relationships, because you are now following Christ and his teaching. You know, when you really stop and think about it, that really is a type of death, is it not? It sure is. You know, remember what Christ said in Luke 14:33? Luke 14, verse 33. In the same way also, each one of you who does not forsake all that he possesses cannot be my disciple. So if we forsake all, we're actually crucifying our old self, which is a type of death. Right? Yes, it is. Christ said that a good shepherd would be willing to lay down his life for his sheep. And just like the worker bee is willing to give up their lives in defense of their hive, in John 10, verse 11, it says, I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. So we see the bees will defend or protect their hive violently, give up their life. Now let's see, this Psalm 113, verse 12. It says, they surround me like bees. And if you've ever messed with the bees and got them upset, you know exactly what that means. So we need to remember that Christ promises to defend us. Let's go to Psalm 94, verse 22. But the Lord is my defense, and my God is the rock of my refuge. Also Psalm 59:1. Deliver me from my enemies, O my God. Defend me from those who rise up against me. Now this does not mean that just because God's going to defend us, that we shouldn't do anything to defend ourselves. It's sort of like, you know, when we're sick, we're ill. We all pray for God to heal us, don't we? But we go to the doctor, right? We do everything we can, right, to help heal that situation, make it well. And then we know, whatever that doctor can't do, that we're doing everything we can be assured God will do the rest. And that's the same for our defense, too. Same with everything. You just look at all the examples that God uses with dealing with it. Very seldom did he ever heal anybody without having them do something for themselves. Go dip yourself in 7 times, whatever. So this is the promise from God. All we have to do is ask, and we are obeying him. He will defend and deliver us. His promise is this a minute. We also should be defenders of our home and family. So we see this, he demands of us. Christ gave us this instruction in Matthew 24, verse 43. It says, but know this, that if the master of the house had known in what watch the thief would come, he would have been watching, and he would not have allowed his house to be broken into. So men, point out to you, especially as we head into these troubled times, we need to be prepared to protect our lives, protect our family. And we need to be willing to put our life on the line for friends. Another quality of the bees is their ability to work together in a harmonious group. You know, they all have their duties, and they do them willingly, you know, without any grudges or without any bad attitude. Boy, wouldn't it be wonderful as humans we could do that so easily? Huh? Can we say the same thing about even God's people? Do we all do these things willingly, without, you know, without seeking any recognition, without seeking anything, but just because we love our brothers and sisters and we love God and we want to please God? That should be our goal. You know, the Feast of Tabernacles pictures all the saints who have been resurrected into God's kingdom, working together in harmony. Just think about it. In creating a new and wonderful world. And it's going to be a world that's going to be filled with joy and with happiness. Just opposite of that. You know, you stop and think about it. There's hardly any joy and happiness in this world today. In order for somebody to get happy today, they have to get high on some drug. And why are they getting high on drugs? Normally because their life is so miserable. What a different world God's kingdom is going to be. One filled with joy and happiness. All kinds of good things. It will truly become a land flowing with milk and honey. So here we are, beginning of the feast. And we have an opportunity, I feel, to work together to make this a great and wonderful experience. And Pat and I have already had part of that opportunity already. But we want to just keep doing it. Now, let me tell you, it was wonderful. It was wonderful. You get to know, just like Dave, you know, we go closer when you're working with somebody and you're working together. It is a wonderful experience. Yet, you know, that is why it is so important, I think, during the feast, that we do everything we can. Look around. You know, we're going to see there are duties and chores that need to be done. And we should, each and every one of us, to be willing to give ourselves and pitch in to help one another in any way that we can. In fact, I'd like you to look at this. You know, we have the hall set up and clean up. And normally, every day, there's going to be some cleaning up that needs to do. And we can all join in on that. The dining room set up and clean up. Food preparation, serving. The kitchen clean up, that's an everyday situation, even when we just have snacks. Trash removal, bathroom cleanup and restocking, and then just assisting the elderly and the handicapped. You know, when we see somebody that's having, open the door, do something, you know. And if we can't do those things, you know, there's something everybody can do, and that's pray for those. Especially for us, after speaking, whatever, we definitely don't want to be not better. So, praying,
They
helping
went use
one
it before we
another.
got here and tore the tile.
These are things that are very important. So whatever you're willing to do, this is what God
Somebody
looks
went in there
at.
and
He's not
used it
looking
to
at
tile.
what somebody else is saying. We all have different gifts. We all have different abilities. The only thing we have to be concerned about is using the talent and ability God has given to help our brothers and sisters. And I think it's just so important to remember that there is no job that is too small. And that we are all important in God's eyes. And we all will have an important role in His kingdom someday. We just need to keep the goals foremost in our mind of making into His kingdom and realize that everything we go through is teaching us the things we're going to need to do to be those rulers in His kingdom someday. And now we need to remember that working together is a great way just to get to know one another. And don't be afraid to ask. You know, if there's something that I can help with, you know, if you see somebody doing it and you don't know what you can do to help, just go up and ask, you know, buddy, is there anything I can do to help, you know? And that will open the doors for you. You know, we need volunteers. There's no question about it. So I want you to all think of yourselves as worker bees. You know, just think of the little worker bee, an important member of the hub or our church, okay? And then say each and every one of us is important to the church. ask yourself, am I a bee or not a bee? Am I a bee or not a bee? And if you're a bee, you're going to get in there and do your part, okay? So in closing, again, welcome to the Feast of Tabernacles. Have a wonderful time, a meaningful and spiritual feast.
That was very good, very good.
And I think now we will be having our closing hymn, and then I'm going to ask Jim to
No,
give
I
us our
already
closing
have, I
prayer.
already have somebody.
What?
I already have somebody.
Oh, you already have some?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. Who's that? Oh, okay, yes, that'll be great, okay.
He's
That-
He's
Ken will give
the
the closing prayer.
he's the guy that I'm going to protect, you know.
Oh, okay.
Because he's big and strong. Is that true?
We all love Ken.
My defender.
That's good, okay.
Page 27.
27. Okay, we'll all rise, and we're going to sing page 27. It won't be long now. And then remember, we had the video going, and we were reading the words on that. You'll find that the words that were up there came from this song right here. It won't be long now. Okay, now again for the closing prayer.
Hey,
God, I just wanted to say thank you for this feast happening this week. I was looking very much forward to being here, and I'm very excited about being here for the first time. And I was very heartbroken when the hurricane hit, and I really thought that it wasn't going to be done here. So I just want to say thank you. And I'm around, to be around all, to be doing this feast for the first time, and wanting to be here. Thank you.